thank you so much to everyone for your wonderful comments and support and feedback about the forthcoming, now completed event at University of Oxford. The chapel, I have to say, was even more beautiful than the picture. Just stunning. So ran the presentation skills masterclass today. So this is the actual venue. That's me, the little green dot on the front, but it was just so gorgeous and amazing. Really fabulous group of fellows. And even those who weren't there for the workshop, because sitting on the other side of this picture is a group of people. Some of them there were to help out, make sure things ran smoothly, etc. Just passing, had to sit down, and even they were saying, "Oh my God, that was amazing. I got so much from it. I learned a lot." They had questions in the break, the same as the fellows. So that was really fantastic that everyone found it useful and went away with skills that they could put into practice straight away, and also things they can take forward, not just in terms of because they're doing internships during the summer. So not just for the internship, but they can take that back into their study, and they can take that back into their future working life. So what I thought I would do with this presentation, I'll show you a couple of the photos from the beautiful venue, but what I wanted to do is just share with you a couple of the tips and things that I'd shared with the group today, because I know that presentation skills and public speaking is a big issue for many people, as in they don't really enjoy it, or they have the thing where there's a sense of terror when you're asked to deliver a presentation or do a talk. So I'm going to share with you just a couple of questions and some exercises that you can do to get the ball rolling on this one. So that's the inside of the venue. What else have we got here? There was, yes, I'm going to show you this one, because when I arrived, you go through these wooden doors, and then this is what it opens out to, these absolutely magnificent grounds, really brilliant. It actually reminded me a little bit of Windsor Castle when you go through some of those doorways and you open it up into the ground. So that's a little look-see about what it looks like. We had a bit of fun before we started. One of my ex-partners used to say that I should have a church in terms of, speaking with passion, etc. So this one in the pulpit did make me giggle, but it's just a really, really fantastic, beautiful, amazing space. So couple of things. Where do I want to start with this one? Where do I want to start with? Oh, actually, this will be a good starting point, because oftentimes with regards to presentation skills and public speaking, people will sabotage themselves. No external help required. So one of the things I always say is think of it in terms of the Spice Girls. One of their hit songs was "Tell me what you want, what you really, really want." And oftentimes when someone comes for presentation skills coaching, or if I'm running a workshop like I was doing today, I will say to people, what is it you actually want? Now, we didn't get into the specifics of all of that today, but generally speaking, if I'm speaking to someone about doing some one-to-one coaching, I'll say, so what do you want as a result of the sessions or the training or the breakthrough session, whatever it is we're doing? And a bit of fluff, there will be a moment where they'll think about it and go, well, I don't want to be like a rabbit in the headlights. Great. Well, what do you want? Well, I don't want palpitations and I don't want sweaty palms. Fantastic. What do you want? Well, I don't want to, be on stage and forget what I'm going to say. Great. What? And this will go on, and they will kind of list all of those things, but at no point have they actually answered the question. So one of the things I always say is, rather than thinking about what you don't want, palpitations, sweaty palms, a rabbit in the headlight, forget what you're going to say, freeze on the spot, all of those things, just think about what do you actually want, which is a question I was originally asking anyway. And then you choose where you put your focus, because if you put your focus on what you don't want, you pretty much get dragged down the rabbit hole of that. And neurologically, your mind and body will respond to that also. So we did a whole segment around that. Several of the questions that came up led us down the path of talking about anchoring, for example. So for those of you who know NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, anchoring is something you can do to actually help you change those internal representations and the feelings that are attached to them. But the first very simple thing I would say to do is just focus on what you want, rather than doing the opposite. And I know people's intention, but you actually get what you're asking for. Another thing that we talked about today was how to harness your energy. And we had quite a lot of questions that all led us back to the energy piece. So I did a little bit of a demonstration when we first started. I asked for a volunteer, had them come up on stage, and just demonstrated the difference between being too much in your head and when your energy is more centered and grounded. And everyone watching could see the difference. And the person who came up to volunteer absolutely felt the difference. Like, wow, that's amazing. Now, when I was growing up, there was a particular, and they're still around, because we actually had some life-size Weebles in Watford a few years ago, but they were called Weebles, and the little strap line was Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. So when I'm speaking to people who might be of my generation, and even if I'm not, I'll just explain the concept, but I often describe it like Weebles. And what you want to be able to do is harness your energy in a way that even if you get knocked off balance, let's say something goes wrong, or you get an angry comment from someone in the audience, for example, that can knock you off center. Or let's just say, for example, today, if I had turned up now, what happened when I did turn up at the chapel, they had a TV screen, big screen, and a laptop all set up, which is absolutely fantastic. But because I'd seen the pictures, and when I was speaking to the team a couple of weeks ago, they said, no, there's no presentation. I said, oh, no problem, fine. I said, if we can have a flip chart, that's great. But if we haven't, that's fine. I can work just in terms of doing what we're doing. Now, let's just say, for example, that I've been told there'd been presentation equipment. So I turn up expecting with my PowerPoint, for example, and then I find it's not possible. That whoosh, can knock you off center. That can knock you off balance. Today is what I call a chalk and talk day, where it was just me, the Sharpie, the flip chart, and the audience. But if you were getting there expecting one thing, and then another thing happens, or the thing you were relying on is no longer available, that can throw you for a loop. So what I would always say is have that technique up your sleeve where you know how to recenter, rebalance your energy, so that even if stuff goes awry, if things go wrong, you are not overly affected by that, and you can bring yourself back to center and deliver what it is you're there to deliver. So that's another thing I would say, a very important component in having you feel more centered, balanced, grounded. Let's see. We also, yes, let's do that one. So one of the things that's the one. Yes, this was a fun one as well. I guess get people, and with regards to, this is from my Fearless Public Speaking workshop, these particular slides. One of the questions I asked the group today is, how do they feel about presenting, public speaking? Sometimes that's speaking in a meeting. Other times they might be leading a team. They might be doing some coursework, some group work. They're at university, so going back and presenting on their findings. And I was asking people to rate themselves on 1 to 10. Well, 1 equals you absolutely dread the thought, and 10 equals, where's my angle? Which way am I facing? Where am I looking? So rating themselves, scale of 1 to 10. I also said that it doesn't have to be a 10. 10 is not the ultimate, because there's always room for improvement. So if the number, however, is in the 3, 4, less than 5 range, that is a sign that you may need to, well, you may want to and choose to do some work in this particular area. The question I would ask, if I was asking it more widely, let's say in the context that we are in here, how do you feel, for example, about going online, doing a Facebook Live, a LinkedIn Live, an Instagram Live? How do you feel about that? Running a webinar, or back in the day, a teleseminar? And if the feeling that you get immediately is a sense of dread, pit of the stomach, you don't want to do it, you'll find all the excuses in the world not to do it. And it could be an important part or component of what you're doing in terms of your work, your business, etc. You might definitely want to sort that one out as well. And the reason I always say to people, benchmark before you do the work, is then you can come back and revisit that at various points and see how it's changed. And I was sharing after the presentation was over, we went to the bar, and it was really lovely. They'd laid on some food and drink and wine, etc. So had something to eat and sat down with the students. And I was sharing with a couple of them that a few years ago found my NLP folder, and I'd written my goals in October 2000, November 2000, and stuff that I was doing in early 2001. And I found my goals for the start of the NLP. And a big goal was to feel confident enough to speak to small groups of people. So when I found that a few years ago and read it back, I was like, oh my goodness, it was almost like it's my writing. I actually do remember writing it as well, but it wasn't something I think about consciously anymore. But just seeing it there in black and white, and one of these student fellows today, because I said, wow, I was thinking, Marilyn, you need to up your game and think bigger. But she quite rightly said, and that's the thing that I was reminded of when I did find it a few years ago, is she said, look how far you've come. And it is that. So I always say benchmark at the start, keep it somewhere where you'll come across it again, and look at it in a few years' time and just see how your horizons have expanded by working on this area. And I've had clients who absolutely just hated the thought of it. And one of them, actually, I was going to say we did some work around this, kind of, sort of, and yes and no. We'd done a soul plan reading and a coaching session. However, she did the pre-recorded version of my Fearless Public Speaking workshop in January 2020. Yeah, January 2020. So I was on holiday in Gran Canaria. Actually, that's where I got this lovely necklace from. I haven't worn it for ages, but I thought as we're in the church, I'd wear it today. So in Gran Canaria, I'm on the kind of sun lounger by the pool. She is in her location here in freezing cold UK. And she took herself through the one-day Fearless Public Speaking workshop. Amazing. She had a presentation that she had to do. Actually, I might see if I can pull up the picture and show you in a bit. And so that was amazing. And what was even more fantastic, she was then offered a radio show, and I was one of her first guests. So that's how much it can change around. But just kind of benchmarking where you're at. Once you've done the work, go back, check where you are, because you'll probably surprise yourself in terms of the change and transformation. And the last thing I thought I would share with you, we did this as an exercise, is that blank sheet of paper, because that can be quite terrifying. In the context of work, someone says, can you present back on that? And that's all you might get. Or if you know you've got to put a presentation together about something, they're sitting looking at that blank sheet of paper, if you're old school, or looking at the blank screen. So we did an exercise today where everyone was given a blank sheet of paper. I told them kind of what to do with it. There are a couple of things I wanted them to write in terms of the headings. And then I got my timer out and I said, you've got 5 minutes now to fill in each of these sections. So when the 5 minutes was over, what was really fantastic as well, those of you who follow me know, I think it's over there. Yes, I'll be back in 1 second. I was sharing with the university that I've got a selection of bells. Oh, I've got a selection of bells that come with me to I've put a little stopper up there so it doesn't make noise when I carry it. But I was sharing with them, I've got a selection of bells, and when I arrived, they had a bell which I thought was amazing, and so everyone had their 5 minutes, ding the bell at the end of the 5 minutes. Then I said, okay, find a partner, stand up, and you've got 1 minute now to whiz through the presentation that you've just put together. Every single person did it without question. And then, of course, when we sit down and do the debrief, they now know that they have the skill and the ability. And I gave them the topic. It wasn't just, talk about something you want to talk about. I gave them 2 topics. One of them was healthy eating. The other one was study skills. They chose which topic they wanted. 5 minutes, bang, 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 get all of those sections done, stand up and deliver a presentation. And that was right at the start of the day. So when you know you have the ability to do that, imagine when you've got 15 minutes or 50 minutes or 5 hours or 5 months if you're working on a big project or thesis or PhD, etc. But when you know you can do that in 5 minutes, you're then like, wow, what else can I do? The world is your oyster. So, and the reason I made it 5, I explained to the group when I first started teaching these classes, etc. I'd give people, half an hour, and people would always need an extra 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. And I started cutting it down a bit, And I realized that actually what people were producing in 5 minutes was often far superior to what they were doing when I was giving them 30 minutes or even 50 minutes, 50, in the early days. So I just wanted to show people also the power of when you've got the right information, you know what you're doing, you know what your segments are, you know how to structure the presentation that you want to put together. 5 minutes is all you need just to nail it and get it down pat. So that was pretty cool as well. Now, let me just see. While I'm here, I'm just going to see if I can find it for you just to show you. Gosh, loads. Okay, I think that's the one I'm looking for. See when it comes up. Oh, just in terms of real life, what you can expect. This is the one. The writing's going to be a bit small, but this is the lovely Rachel CK. Some of them, you know her, and this was on the Fearless Public Speaking webinar page, and she was talking about this is what she used to go from, having fear around doing the presentation that she was asked to do, and that little dot you can see is a picture of her on stage presenting, doing absolutely brilliantly. And so it is absolutely amazing. And I said to the group today, I said, what I'm going to share with you is very straightforward. It might even sound very simple because, of course, we're stripping away all the excess stuff and just getting straight down to it. We only had 2 hours today. But don't let the simplicity of the ideas fool you, because they make a massive, massive difference. So what happens now is there's going to be a showcase event in September. So they will be using what we were working on today to then feed into their presentation. So really excited to see how they use this information, the data. And I'm back in the virtual coaching room tomorrow, because the coaching we're doing online. Today's was in person at university in Oxford. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic and brilliant. Now I can hear the Spice Girls in my head. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. But just doing those little things, learning how to harness and balance your energy, putting your focus on what you actually do want, having a strategy that means you can get your thoughts and ideas together in 5 minutes. And that is enough to be able to walk into a meeting, have some structure around what you want to say, contribute, bring up a variety of points from a number of different angles. And actually what happens is you get what I call the bounce effect, where someone else in the meeting will say something, and because you've taken the time to just add a bit of structure, it's going to then you can then start bouncing ideas, and you'll start remembering other things because it kind of fires off those neurons. So powerful stuff. I was also sharing with the group that when I first got into doing this 22 years ago, I remember people speaking about the research where, 3 of the biggest fears in life, one of them was the kind of fear of death. But right up there, fear of spiders. Many people have that as well. But the one that surprised me was fear of public speaking. It's like, whoa. And this was research from America and the United Kingdom. Now, I've no idea how that has changed in recent times. But what I understood from that, because at the time I was terrified of spiders and terrified of public speaking. So I'm like, actually, I'm not even surprised. But just think about that for a moment. There are people in the world who fear public speaking as much as, or even more than, they fear death. That is like, whoa. And the thing that kind of upsets me about that sort of statistic, and I know what it was like because that was me until I was terrified of public speaking until the age of 32. It's like, that is really sad, because there are things that you can do to turn that around, and not just to the extent where you'll just drag yourself through and get to the end, but you actually can enjoy public speaking. You look forward to public speaking, and it could even become one of the favorite things that you do. And actually, let me see if I can pull this one up for you as well, because this is pretty cool. Sorry, I hope this isn't too loud and I'm going clackety clack. Now, this is absolutely amazing. This woman is an incredible speaker. And when we met, she had been invited to do a TED Talk. I'm not happy about it. And most people are really, yay, TED Talk. She's like, oh my God, no, don't want to do this. And so, oh, is that the one I was looking for? Don't know that it was actually. Let me just see. Oh yeah, oh, it's too small though. I needed the picture. But one of the things that she was not happy, petrified of doing the talk, we did some work around that. Talk was incredible, and anyone who has seen her speak, I remember she invited me to one of her pictures and presentations, and I was in the audience. Nobody knew who I was just another person in the audience. In the break, we were just chatting, and I said, oh, how you found it? I said, oh, that woman Erica, she was amazing. Oh man, she was fantastic. Everybody's giving this feedback, and I'm like, yeah, she is amazing. And I had another one of my clients, and I said to them at the start of the breakthrough session, I said, the day will come where somebody invites you to speak and you're happy about it, you're excited about it. And she said, no way, hate it, hate it, hate it. So a few months after we did the breakthrough session, I invited her to an event in London. I had a private members club at that time. It unfortunately closed down just before lockdown. So I get a message from her, a text, and so sorry, Marilyn, I'm running late. I was speaking at an event and they kept asking me questions. So she is someone, when we were first doing the work, hated questions, because it's the unknown. It's a wild card. You have no idea what people are going to ask you. And therefore, why would you want to answer any questions? And she's running late because she's having such a great time delivering this talk, answering questions. I'm like, oh my God, absolutely fantastic. So the change can be that quick. And we were talking about it a few weeks ago. It's one of the things she now loves to do. She's traveled the world doing it. Same with Erica. So it's definitely something that you can change. It's definitely something you can work on. It is most definitely something that you can go from loving, from hating to loving. And just in the same way as now me and spiders are cool. Actually, let me find that one for you, because I know people go, yeah, Marilyn. But when I did the spider thing, oh, what did I call this? With no, not sure. No, not that one. Oh, I'll have to find it another time. But I was looking for, just seeing if I've filed it where I could. I was looking for the picture with me and Betsy the tarantula. It is on my website. What might I have called that? Where might I have put that? Nah. Well, no, it's not in the immediate folders. At some point I'll find it. And maybe I'll add the picture in the comments of this. But me with Betsy the tarantula, and and never in a million years have thought that would have been possible. Oh, that's funny. Actually, let me just have one look in there. That's the one. Alrighty, so I'll show you this one just in terms of those two fears. Fear of death, that's really not been my thing. If anything, I was slightly intrigued by the idea and what happens afterwards and all that sort of stuff. And of course, now more so in the line of work that I'm in with the tarot, etc. But the fear of spiders was definitely real for me. And this is me with Betsy the tarantula. And somebody said my arms look tense. I'm like, no, I just used to work out a lot and go to the gym. But that's Betsy the tarantula, who is surprisingly delicate. And they say to you before they give give you her to hold. They say, are you sure this is okay? Because if you drop her, you could actually damage her. And I was like, no, it's cool. So that was after overcoming my fear of spiders. And as you can tell from this video, I actually like public speaking. So yeah, 2 of those fears done. The other, as I said, the third one, the fear of death, wasn't really anything that I would particularly think about in a deep way in terms of, oh my God, I'm just curious. But yeah, the spider thing and the public speaking thing. So when I say I know these things are possible and that you can change and transform, I don't just say it because I think it's academically nice and I've read about it. I say it because I've lived it and breathed it and done it. And not just me, done that with hundreds, well, probably thousands of people now over the past 22 years. So if that's your thing, if that's something that kind of scares you, terrifies you, etc., you know where to find me. But just want to say thank you to Said Business School, University of Oxford, for the invitation. Thank you so much to the wonderful fellows who came along today and everyone else who attended the presentation. And where I started, also thank you to everyone, all of you here on Facebook, for your wonderful comments and feedback and support. But yeah, just wanted to give you a little update on how it went, share a few little snippets with you as well. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Oh, actually, this is right next to it is a picture of just a reminder of how far things have come. That's me with Nassim Haramein. This man's got a brain the size of a planet. And actually, it was one of those times where Nassim and I was supposed to just be introducing him. We did a live webinar that would have been, I think that was in 2021. Did we do it in 2020? I think it was, actually, it might have been 2020. After we'd gone into lockdown, we did the first one was the big mega event. So I thought I was just going to be introducing Nassim Haramein, just saying, read his bio, handing over, and he was going to do a presentation. The day before I was going to be introducing Nassim, I just said, I asked a question. They said, oh, sorry, we didn't tell you. It's changed. Can you interview him? I was like, what, for an hour and a half? I don't know anything about quantum physics, etc. So now I'm like, okay. So this was late at night because it was like 12-hour days we were doing because people were out in the States, etc. So we come to the point where now I'm going to interview Nassim Haramein. So I'd done some photo reading the day before, started looking at his work, watched a few of his videos, and I'm, brainstorming, mind mapping. I do the interview. And while I'm doing the interview, I can see messages popping up, but because I'm on camera, I can't go and read them. You see them pop, and I'm like, what's going on? Because we were on Zoom, and I'm getting messages in the back channel, private messages from people. When I'd finished a presentation, I went and looked at those messages. People saying, oh my God, you were holding your own with Nassim Haramein. Those were great questions. Where did you get those questions? Where did they come from? And as I was saying to the group today in Clubhouse last year, I was in a room with 7 scientists, astronauts, etc., from NASA, because one of the questions one of the fellows asked today is, how do you handle it if it's a subject you don't know very much about, because people were shrinking back from that. I said, well, actually, there's a gift, GIFT, in that as well, because you bring a freshness and a newness and a perspective that maybe people who have been doing something for a very long time don't necessarily have. And I remember I was in the room with the group from NASA, listening to what they were saying. If you've been on Clubhouse, you can raise your hand. So I raised my hand, asked the question. The chief guy, he went quiet for a moment, and then he passed it on to one of his colleagues and says, I'll hand that to so-and-so to answer. They bounced it around a few times, and the person who was hosting the room sort of laughed and sheepishly went, we didn't really answer your question, did we? I went, no, not really, but thanks for trying. Because it just blew their mind. And not because I know anything about astronomy, the stars, nebulas, black holes. That's not my bag at all. It's Nassim Haramein's bag. However, I do know about other aspects of life, and you can think in such a way that you can still formulate very intelligent questions about things, or get people to open up and explain things in a different way. And sometimes people will say, wow, I've never explained it like that before, or gosh, that's really made me think. And all of that you can do. We did a little segment where just took them through some elements of step 1 of photo reading and that left and right brain integration. And when you get that going, you even surprise yourself. And that's where we get into the realm of tapping into your genius potential. But that Nassim Haramein event, this was the live event, but with the online event, I was like, whoa. Even I sat for a moment before we went live and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. An hour and a half keeping Nassim Haramein engaged and actually doing, you know, talking about real juicy stuff. The recording is probably around somewhere, but that was one of those times where I was reminded about the power of the mind and what it can actually do when you give it a chance. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But these sorts of pictures is from the TCCHE, the Conference for Consciousness and Human Evolution, where I've been the host and MC, gosh, for the last 5 years now, maybe a little bit longer, and get to interview some of the great minds of our time, people like Greg Braden and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Lynn McTaggart. They have astrophysicists and scientists, you name it, they're all there. My job is to interview them, which is always fantastic. And I'm relying on many of the things that we talk about in the photo reading and many of the things that I talked about today at the masterclass and some of the things that I've shared with you as these little hints and tips, etc. So I shall leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, as I said, for your comments, your feedback, etc. If you haven't yet seen it, I've posted some of those pictures on my Facebook page in terms of from today. I was also asking about getting married in that chapel, and the answer was very interesting. So for those of you who have attended University of Oxford, definitely check that out. But yeah, it was a really fun, fabulous, fantastic day. So thank you for watching. If you need any help or support in any of the areas I've talked about, you know where to find me. Email is the easiest way, marilyn@transformationstm.com. Marilyn is Marilyn, as you can see on the screen, at trance, TRANCE, F for Freddy, so FORMATIONSTM.com. And again, you can see transformations. Oh, there it is. Email is going across the bottom in the ticker tape as well. So yeah, feel free to get in touch. And if you work for an organization that's looking for a fabulous, amazing speaker to design and deliver workshops, you also know where to find me, because it's one of my favorite things to do. And again, if you'd seen me in my 30s, I would have laughed you out of town if you'd said that's what I would spend a lot of my time doing. So always fun, always a pleasure. And thank you again, University of Oxford, for the invitation. I'll catch you all later.